Okay, hello everyone. May I please ask that you mute your mics if you haven't already? Thank you very much. So welcome to the rehearsed reading of the new play, Chop Money, or Chop Money if you're Nigerian, written by James Henshaw. My name is Mavis Koya Nkrumah, and I will be your compere. Now, may I please ask again that if your mic is on, could you please mute it? Thank you. Could I please ask that you mute your mic to stop any feedback or echo and just give us a maximum sound?
Are you able to mute everybody from your end?
Yeah, I can ask the technical person to do so.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, so once again, my name is Mavis Koya Nkrumah, and I will be your compere. I am a former student of our writer, James, and I have ventured into writing myself recently. You can find me on various platforms under Koya Nkrumah. Now, to the reason why we're all here today, I will start by introducing James Henshaw. He is an award-winning playwright and the executive secretary of the James Henshaw Foundation, a charity that maintains the literary legacy of the late James Henshaw, one of the pioneers of African drama. Okay. Now, Chop Money is a one-character play based around the life of a provincial young man trying to make a headway in the big city of Lagos in Nigeria. The play depicts how Ponzi schemes and other quick money-making schemes have gripped the society. In Kenni, the main character, we see how corruption, lack of opportunity, and insecurity may be the catalyst for the craze. Kenni is played by Promise Agbo, who is based in Lagos. Promise is a graduate of theatre studies at the University of Calabar. Direction for the play will be provided by El Osas Iyalukwe, who is also based in Lagos. He is also a graduate of theatre studies from the University of Jos. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. However, I do encourage everyone with questions or feedback to use the comment or chat function to put these across. Your feedback is very much appreciated. May I also ask again, you mute your mics. I believe that has been done by a technical person already, just to eliminate any distortion to the sound during the reading of the play. The play will run approximately for 145 minutes. May I please reiterate again that you mute your mics, sit back, relax, and enjoy the play.
Act 1, Scene 1. Dead of the night, a bedroom in an apartment in Lagos, Nigeria. Kenni, a man in his mid-20s, is tossing and turning in his bed, a mattress on the floor.
I need money.
Shame on you, boy.
I really can't handle this. I can't even pay my damned rent.
Ooh, so you got a woman pregnant, but don't have money.
One time. Just one fucking time.
Ah, you are the man then.
I know it's 3 months already. They'll marry when I can.
Well, look here, my friend.
Fuck them. Tell them all to fuck off.
Young man, you listen to me now.
The play person is muted.
Can you mute it, please?
Sincere apologies for trying to get the sound back up. Do bear with.
Oh yeah, it's back up now, yeah.
Act 1, Scene 1. Dead of the night. A bedroom in an apartment building in Lagos, Nigeria. Kenny, a man in his mid-20s, tossing and turning in his bed, on a mattress on the floor.
Oh, I need money.
Shame on you.
I really can't handle this. I can't even pay my damn rent.
Ooh, so you got a woman pregnant and you don't have money?
Just one time. Just one fucking time.
Ah, you are the man then.
I know it's 3 months already. We'll marry when I can.
Oh, look here, my friend. Look here.
Fuck them. Tell them all to fuck off.
Young man, you listen to me now, brother.
Ah, what now? Send money urgently. Let her die. Please let her die. Every time, everything's on my head. I sent school fees for your children only last month. Another one on the way? What the fuck?
That's not the way, boy. That's not the way. What you need, my dear man, is solutions.
For God's sake, Shadi. You're my boss's side chick.
Oh, look at you. Sweating like a chicken brain prepped up for the kill. Pepper, boy. What you need is money. You got to get real. Get smart. I mean, look at my coffins. Diamond crusted. I didn't get this by sitting on my backside at some lousy table in some godforsaken office. You see, in this land, anything is possible. Some say it's corruption. I say it's freedom of opportunity. It's not your intelligence that counts. It's your God. You want to be loved? Chop money. You want to be respected? Chop money. Believe me, I tell you, all things are possible. There is only one language we all understand in this hellhole. The big fucking N. Believe me, it's not the size of your dick or the complexity of your brain. This is Nigeria. There's enough for everybody. In fact, everybody can have enough. Depends on how much you want. I love Nigeria, man. God's very own country. You see, I love this fucking country. So you know Nigeria is one country where you can ride a bicycle one day. The next day, you're flying around in your own private jet. Fucking brilliant. I just love it. I love it. Get out there, brother. You kick ass. Take the bull by the horn and conquer. I tell you, my boy, the wall is your oyster. Fuck it. You go fuck it. Scene 2, Wemco Financial in the heart of Lagos.
Oh my God! This rain! It's ruined my hair and I only did it yesterday. Look at my dress now. It's ruined. I am not looking at you. Why should I be looking at you, Shoo? I know what you're thinking. I hope there is paper in the toilet. Shade goes into the restroom and comes out complaining. Oh, I can't believe this kind of rain. I waited for a taxi for over an hour. It's all wahala. It's 12:30 and she's just strolling into the office like she owns the place. Sick. Yeah, I know it was raining like hell, but the rest of us still managed to get in on time. Well, at least not long after. Oh, your clothes. They must be really extra special, Shadi? Not even a drop of rain can touch it. I'm not being funny. I'm not giving you any hassle. Oh, difficulty to find a taxi, yeah? She lives less than half a mile away from here. Her feet has never touched dead ground. Private car hire everywhere. Who knows? Even when she goes to the toilet. The proposal was due at 12 today, Shadi. See, there's no need to make your face like you're sorry. Because I know you're not. It was done, I've sent it off. I knew what was coming next. I don't have anything to say to you. Ridiculous the way she carries on. I wouldn't be speaking in public if I were you. People like listening, Shadi. You don't care? Well, I do. Listen, Shadi, I can't afford to lose my job. For Christ's sake, you're the bosses, you know what? I'm just a fucking errand boy. What do you want from me, Shadi? I can't give you what you want. Well, not the kind of things that you're used to anyway. That insults you. I know you're not. A lot of other girls are doing it, Shadi. That's your business. That's your business. Oh, yeah. Only a woman can understand. Don't touch me, Shadi. Don't fucking touch me. My legs. What the fuck is wrong with you? Shadi, don't touch me. Shadi, I'm serious right now. Don't touch me. Mind yourself. Get off. What do you mean? Why should I? Shadi, I'm definitely not doing this. She wanted me to join her in the restroom for what we call our 1 minute wonder. But I this station is. I wanted to flicked on and off as she wanted. But suddenly, out of the blue, she began making demands, checking on me at odd hours, watching me taking calls or writing texts. Last weekend, she arrived at my shack loaded with food and provisions and insisted on spending the whole weekend. Her head was rested on my chest as she made sweet talk with our boss. It was all so bizarre. My life was spiraling out of control. I had a fiancée back in the village, 3 months pregnant, and her people clamoring for me to come and do the right thing. My mother, paralyzed with a stroke and with no hope of recovery, and my elder brother, 5 children with a new one coming on the way, and no visible source of income, calls every bloody day for fucking school fees. I could hardly pay my rent. And here I was, rolling with a very unpredictable vixen at the risk of my job. The phone on her desk rang. A hush descended on the office. There was ever only one caller on the phone. The boss. Her lips twisted in a curl. I will deal with you later. We all knew what Shade's tips to the boss's office was all about. She couldn't type, not with her extended nails, or even take notes or put 2 + 2 together. Her role in the company was a mystery. Well, not really a mystery if you're thinking outside the box. You know what I mean. She would spend anywhere from 30 minutes to just over an hour having important meetings with the boss. We all knew the patterns too. If she came out in half an hour, all hot and ruffled, we knew it was a rough and urgent banger. But if she emerged in over an hour, cool and composed, it meant a slow grind had been on the menu. All in the office loved it when she appeared cool and composed because we were up for a treat. Free lunch for everyone in the office, and I would get an extra special present in private later or the next day. My wardrobe was bulging with suits, and my table laden with an assortment of the most exquisite perfumes available in town. Say whatever you liked about Sade. She was kind and generous, and she liked her boys smelling nice. She hadn't been gone 5 minutes when we began hearing loud noises, loud voices from the office. Louder and louder until even I couldn't afford to ignore it. This was new. Shouting and yelling and a few thumping sounds. My curiosity got the better of me. I tiptoed down the corridor and placed my ear against the door. There was definitely some violence going on behind there. I could hear Sade's voice. She was definitely the aggressor. Oh, you are shit. I don't know why I fucking bother with you. If you can't, there are many men who can do better. And in a meek, pleading voice, clearly in distress. Oh, I've told you to be patient. I didn't say I can't. Sade's voice rebounded. Oh, I don't care. You bring that money out today. Today, or I'll fucking cut that thing off. Slaps rang out. Bang, 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 bang. The sounds were so crisp, my hands involuntarily went to my cheeks. Then, a deep thumping sound. I pressed my ear even harder on the door. If I knew the two inmates in that room well, I knew who was giving and who was on the receiving end. You should be ashamed of yourself, always disturbing me, and you can't even do anything. You said you buy me an apartment, oh, I am still waiting. Even that ugly bitch, Ngozi, she has been to London 3 times this year. All my friends are driving cars, and you have the guts to ask me why I don't take a taxi? It's all promises, promises, promises. All you know is to push me down on the table. You can't even do anything, sir. Oh, I wasn't prepared for what came next. The terror in the scream sent shivers from the top of my hairs to the soles of my feet. I was still frozen when the door swung open and Sade stumbled out. Our eyes met for one brief moment. Her eyes were filled with horror and mine filled with shock. She staggered down the corridor and clutched her face with her hands, whimpering like a dog whose toes had been stepped on. I was caught between two minds, to go after her, Sade, or go in and see what had happened to the boss. For some reason unfathomable to me, I chose the latter. And it would have unimaginable consequences for me, my future, my entire life. I pushed the door open wider, and I surveyed the scene first. It wasn't often I ventured into this. Even when I was holding, I only stepped in a few steps behind the door. I leaned forward and I peeped in. The boss was standing by the window with his back to me. I took a few tentative steps into the room. He seemed to have sensed my presence and turned sharply with his hands playing in the air as if he was warding off another assault. There was menace in his eyes. His lips twisted like the snarl of a big cat. "What are you doing here?" he growled. I came to check on you, sir. For what? Get out of my office. I froze. And like a statue being turned slowly on its axis, I turned and faced back to the door. Each step was deliberate and measured. "Get out!" He backed again. I lunged forward as the force of his voice hit the back of my neck. 2, 3, 4. Something happened when I got to the door. Rather than leave the room, I closed the door and turned round to face my boss. I looked at him. He looked at me. I stared at him. He stared right back at me. Focused on him, and he fixed his eyes on me. Every moment, every second we faced each other, I felt myself growing bigger, and my boss was growing smaller. I was growing bigger, and my boss was growing smaller and smaller and smaller. My presence filled the room like I owned the place, like it was my very own domain. I walked up to him. Each step that brought me closer also seemed to peel off a layer, each vestige of power and control that was around the man. The man who was my boss, a tyrannical, egoistic human being whose only raison d'etre was the acquisition of wealth. Now, there's an argument to be had about wealth. What's the difference between wealth and cash? I wondered. Because my boss's definition of wealth was clean, crisp notes in bags, in boxes, in whatever manner of container you wished to mention. How he loved the smell of notes. I caught him one afternoon, sitting in his chair with a mountain of notes on the desk, sniffing, just sniffing. Now, I have sniffed a few things in my time, but sniffing notes, I guess, must be the ultimate high. This man did not believe in banks or safe boxes. He had cash stashed in boxes in his drawers. An anteroom in the office was stashed with cash on shelves, on the floor, everywhere, right up to the ceiling. He didn't believe in putting cash anywhere he couldn't smell the cold, crisp smell of notes. I put my hand over his shoulder and guided him towards his chair. It's all right, sir. It will be well. He meekly accepted my guidance and lowered himself into the seat. His lips were bruised and there were splashes of blood across his gleaming white shirt. The shirt itself was ripped in several places. He was in a real mess. Not that I was surprised. Could you imagine a wild cat and a mouse cooped up in a cage together? No words for that. You need cleaning up, sir, I said calmly and with authority. I walked over to his private room, a small cubicle at the other end of the office, where I found a towel, soaked it with water, and brought it back. In the 1 or 2 minutes it took me to go to the restroom and back, the man had shrunk. His substantial frame, which in normal times overflowed over the chair, had shrunk to nothing more than half its size. He looked like an imposter on a throne. His eyes beamed like the eyes of a rabbit, caught in the intense headlamps of a car about to run it over. He crumbled with his hands on the desk. It's all right, sir. We'll soon have you tidied up, I said. His eyes raised to mine. And in that instant, I knew that things would never be the same again. Not for him, not for me, not for both of us, and not for anyone who was going to be drawn into our orbit. I held out the wet towel to him, but he remained motionless. Reverence and decorum jabbed the bruises on his lips, and then the scratches along his cheeks. It was then that I discovered the destructive potency of those nail extensions on Sade's fingers. I swear, nail extensions like that on anybody's fingers are a dangerous weapon and should come with a warning. Danger, weapon of deep incision. The wounds were at least 1.5 inches long, and the flesh was ripped up and tore about 1/4 inch deep. I shuddered at the destruction. Sir, I think you will need to see a doctor. His eyes flickered. I have a meeting in an hour. There is no way you're going to a meeting like this, sir. I said with authority. You will need a new shirt. That girl, he said, ruefully. His pain was palpable. I could even feel it in the pits of my stomach. That girl. I will take care of her, sir, don't worry. The words left my lips with a tinge of anger and deceit. Anger? Because how could she dare inflict such a damage to a man who took care of her every whim, paid her rent for a luxurious apartment, took her to the most fashionable restaurants in the city, and adorned her with expensive ornaments that made her look like $1 zillion? Deceit! Because I was screwing this woman behind his back. and I was also a second-hand recipient of his largesse. After I had cleaned his wounds and stopped the flow of blood, he insisted still that he still had to go to this meeting. I don't know why or what got into me, but I blurted out, "Let me go to the meeting for you, sir." I can represent you. His eyes almost popped from their sockets. He pulled himself up and got up from his seat. "Look at your shirt, sir. He hadn't realized the state he was in. He looked himself over, took a deep breath, and sank back into the chair. He was sweating now. Beads of sweat gathered on his forehead and began rolling down his face. He looked frightened and shivered. It definitely wasn't the chill of the rain, coupled with the super efficient air conditioning in the room. He was shivering with fright. The man was scared. It was like he had just seen the devil or some figure of his mortality. "Is there a problem, sir?" His face clouded over for a long moment. Then he sank back in his chair. "Tell the driver, he will take you there. He knows the place." He scribbled a note and handed it over to me. "I will tell them you're coming." The venue, you would not believe. It was the Ministry of Defense. Fuck me! My mind was blown. Now, this is not the building everyone knows as the Ministry of Defense. It was the Ministry of Defense inside the Ministry of Defense. What? At the reception, I was directed to the 5th floor. I straightened up and I stepped into the room. "I'm here to see the principal staff officer." It took a few minutes for her eyes to flicker to life, and then with a thoroughly disgusted look of life, she expelled. She pointed to the seats. "Sit down." Minutes later, a tall, dark-skinned, well-built man came in and looked me over. "Come with me," turned and left the room. Further down the corridor, we came to a lift marked "strictly out of bounds." We emerged into a subterranean world, brightly lit with fluorescent lights. A car bay packed with several high-end limousines and SUVs. We walked towards the door and tapped a code into a pad by the door and held it open for me to go in. The first thing that struck me was the plush carpet. My foot seemed to sink and sink down into it forever. It wouldn't stop. I had to steady myself, because the moving from side to side suddenly caused me to have a kind of seasickness. The passage was well chilled too. I could smell wafts of cigar smoke come through, mixed with the sweet aromatic smell of cognacs. What the hell was going on here? What the hell? A burst of adrenaline surged through my veins. It surged through my veins. I was excited, pumped up. Halfway down the corridor, a door swung open and a most magnificent specimen of womanhood emerged. She was carrying a tray stacked with used plates and a bottle of champagne. She gave me a good once-over with her large, haughty eyes and concluded that I was worth naught. I still managed to glance as she brushed past me and lapped the side of the mouths of her rather prominent buttocks, jiggling independently in response to each stride. I slapped myself this time. Mind yourself, that is for the big boys. And I felt the heat from the disapproving eyes of the officer. Wait here, he said. He went in and closed the door. Moments later, he poked his head back. Ah, Nathaniel's son, a short, dark, very black complexioned, bowed-headed man with a stomach the size of 2 footballs, held out his hands as he bounced towards me. His extremely white teeth against the black skin shone brightly like a halogen bulb. I am General Samuel. He took me by the arms. Oh, you are welcome. Very welcome. This man must have been a midget, but I could tell from the aura around him that he was not a man to be trifled with. He hugged me as if to warn me in advance of his strength, punched my chest with a fist, and dragged me towards the center of the room. This is Nathaniel's son, he said. I clasped my hands and bowed. And bowed. I bowed so low, I almost bent in two. As I raised my head, what came into my line of sight made me to remain there. My dobale took too much longer than was usual. My eyes were fixed on the wonder that was before me. Spread out on the low center table was enough alcohol to cover my salary for 3 years. Hey! Trouble there for this world, though. What did I not see on that center table? You have to be a qualified drinker to understand what I am talking about here. I closed my eyes. I opened it. I closed my eyes. I opened it. I say I closed my eyes and opened it for the 3rd time. What am I seeing here? Bottles? Yes, bottles, but these were not ordinary bottles now. Nathaniel never told us he had a son. That was when I snapped out of my trance. I wasn't going to get caught out by some negligent oversight by my boss. I raised my head and announced proudly, yes, I am his first son. A man in only a singlet and boxers, spread out on one of the settees, surveyed me with cold, slit-like eyes. You know, the Clint Eastwood type of squint. There was a young woman, no more than 18 in my estimation, sitting on the floor beside him, tickling his armpit. General Samuel came to my rescue. Oh, you know our friend, Nat. He plays things close to his chest. If General Samuel had an air of menace about him, this other one was cold and evil. He was lying there seemingly impervious to any sensation the poor young woman was trying to engineer in him. He looks just like the father, the general continued ebulliently. And to my horror, a smile broke out across his lips, and he nodded in agreement. Oh, I hope he has much sense. Samuel patted my back. Your father is a very smart man, brilliant man. That very moment, I heard a soft moan. I glanced sideways. A wild-looking woman with equine features, again, no more than 20, was straddled over a skeletal figure of a man old enough to be her grandfather, with her head launched over his loins. I snapped my head away and stared into thin air. What the fuck is going on here? This was the kind of thing that went on in the hostels of universities, not in the bowels of the Ministry of Defense, for crying out loud. I was still battling to try and keep a straight face when I heard a growl. Get off! I turned just in time to catch a glimpse of the girl tumbling off the settee to the floor. He must have pushed her off with such violence he landed on her back. I couldn't tell if it was shock or fear, but the glare in her eyes was most dramatic to me. This man sat up and cast a contemptuous look at the young woman on the floor as she sat up frantically, trying to gather some decency. He got to his feet, swaying from side to side as he pulled his jockey's wide front briefs up. His eyes were bloodshot and gone to another planet. I am 6'3". This man stood another 3 or 4 inches above me. He was angular, not an ounce of extra flesh on his frame. His face well chiseled like a Roman god. I had to give it to him. He was a fine man, but he had rogue written all over him. You know, those arrogant, self-absorbed types that think the world owes them everything and can never lift their finger to help anybody. I hated him with a vengeance. Immediately, I hated him with a vengeance. You can't believe what happened next. He kicked her. He kicked her. He kicked the girl as she was still there on the floor. Not the David Beckham type of free kick, but good enough to send her scurrying far away from him. He approached the table and picked up a bottle of Jack Daniels and poured himself a good 3-inch measure. He downed half of it in one go, then cast his bloodshot eyes on me. "What are you having, young man?" he said. I didn't have to put 2 and 2 together. "I don't drink, sir." "Thank you, sir." He gave me a good looking over and with a mischievous glint in his eyes said, "I don't trust a man who doesn't drink." I almost choked on myself. "Don't lie to me, fucker. I know your type. Given half the chance, you would soak this lot all up." He was right. The man was right. He had actually seen through me. Given half, tiny bit of a chance, I could polish off everything on that table. It wasn't for nothing that I was known as soak away among my mates. I could drink a whole drum of spirits, any kind and any combination, and still recite my 9 times table straight to the point. "Don't be shy," he insisted. I turned, I left the room. I turned, left, and I turned to the right. I was caught between 2 minds. I could party up with these guys and risk exposing myself. After all, I was only here on an errand for my boss. I could accept the offer at the risk of them taking it as an insult. I was way out of my league here. I caught a glimpse of the frightened young woman on the floor, staring at me. I might not have approved of what she had just been doing, but she and I were from the same side of the tracks, hustlers in our own ways. Anyhow we could to survive. The fear in her eyes had given way to defiance, and without saying a word to each other, we spoke the very same language. I knew her pain and her anger, because I had been kicked like that. I had been kicked so many times, I didn't feel the pain anymore, only anger and fury. Anger swelled inside me like a molten lava, ready to erupt at any moment. I wanted to put my foot down on someone and kick hard and say, "I told you so." Now look who's laughing. Yes, I saw red anytime I saw someone being kicked down. "Witch, you are an evil woman. You killed our brother." I still see my mother's face as she clutched the baby in one hand and bag with the other, begging, pleading as she was kicked out of her home by her in-laws. "What did you do?" "Yes, you killed him. Wicked woman. He was only 56 years strong as a bull, but you still killed him." But the fact that my father was an angry, bullying drunk who himself had been stripped of his self-dignity and kicked out of his job without a single kobo, no one knew the hell he turned our home into. He kicked the living lights out of my mother and every single one of his children. And from the day we were kicked out, it was an endless spiral of kicks. Kicked out of one home after the other, kicked out of school, kicked because he did not belong, kicked because you don't look the part. Kicked because you didn't have. But I was no mud. I learned how to dance, yeah, like Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Pam, 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 float, sting. Pam, 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 float, sting. Goal! Goal! General Samuel jumped and jigged. Goal! He picked the remote control for the extra wide TV on the wall and maxed the volume. The room was suddenly flooded with the roar of jubilating supporters. He goaded the other men in the room. You see? You see? You see that? As he continued to jig. Now, a goal for Arsenal is good enough reason to celebrate. I zeroed in on a bottle of Jack Daniels and poured myself a good measure. The general must have caught on that I was an Arsenal fan and raised his glass to mine. We clicked glasses. Oh, Arsenal! He roared at the top of his voice. Oh, Arsenal! I responded. Arsenal! We both roared in unison. Now, there is something about football that's a great leveler until you are a real fan, a true lover. You wouldn't understand the deep emotions football can bring out in a man. Football can make grown men cry out with joy or break down in pain. It can foster comradeship and it can create enemies, even within families. Here was I, a dead, broke insurance clerk, only this morning struggling to find 500 naira for a taxi ride, drinking and dancing with the general of the army. I reached out for the bottle again. The Amazon had come back into the room. She hurried the girls to a corner where they made themselves decent. After collecting a very fat envelope from the general, led them out of the room. That was when I got the whole picture. Amazon woman was the madam, and the young women were her girls, and I had arrived at the end of a private session, if you know what I mean. After the women left, the mood in the room changed. It became serious. Very serious indeed. Sit down, young man, the general ordered. His voice suddenly was low toned now and deliberate. Sit down. What happened? Why is your father not here for the meeting? I hadn't seen this coming. We had been asking for him to come and see us. Why is he not coming? My heart began to race. This was very serious indeed. I had to think fast. Anything I said could have consequences. I couldn't tell them that my father had been beaten up by his side chick. That would be hilarious. I came up with the only reasonable excuse I could come up with, that he had taken ill suddenly with acute stomach pains, and that we had called an ambulance. There was dead silence. I could feel the sweat gathering on my face. My armpits became moist and uncomfortable. Okay, you tell him that we want to transfer the money, 10 million, to my account. He flipped through his phones and held it out for me to take down the details. $10 million to my account at Credit Suisse in Geneva. My head exploded. Did I hear correctly? I began to vibrate like a tuning fork. He continued flipping through the phone. For General Bozo, $10 million. Lombard Ordered, how do you pronounce this again? I leaned closer. A Lombard Ordered. I could tell Bozo was the one with the cold, dark eyes by the way his eyes bore into me. He seemed to notice my nervousness. Make sure you take it down correctly, yo. We don't want money sent to the wrong account. No! That will never happen. I heard myself screaming in my mind. It will not happen in Jesus' name. Shantaraba, Shantaraba. Now, this is for the big man here, General Celia. He held the phone to me again. I read out. General Celia, account 7895465 at JP Morgan, Manhattan. Celia winked at me and sipped his Jack Daniel. 10 million to go there too. I was I was flabbergasted. What? $10 million? I tried to compute the amount in naira, but my brain couldn't handle it. How did the $10 million look like? Would it fill this whole room? Could you buy a house, 2 houses, a skyscraper, or maybe one of those gleaming cars parked out there? I could certainly get married to my long-suffering fiancée and make her relatives worship me for the rest of their lives. I could send all my elder brother's children to the best schools. And as for my dying mother, it will certainly give her the greatest funeral in the village that people will be talking about it for decades and decades to come. An empty swell rose in my stomach, and I started to feel faint. I struggled to keep conscious as I left that den of iniquity and rode back to the office. I opened the door to the boss's office. And what did I see? If I told you I was shocked, I would be lying. Shocked beyond belief. Shocked beyond anything I could ever imagine in my wildest imagination. I wiped my eyes to make sure I was not dreaming. I rubbed it harder to make sure I was still on this earth. Bundles of notes everywhere. On the main desk, on the conference table, suitcases sprawled everywhere on the floor, all packed to the brim with notes. Even Ghana must go bags filled to bursting with notes. And my boss was behind his table, stashing even more notes into a leather traveling bag. Guess who was helping him? Shade. The same Shade. My jaws dropped so low. I mean, like it had dislocated from the joints. So the same Shade who earlier in the day had almost torn him to shreds. The same Shade who had castrated him and knocked the stuffing out of his male pride. I took a few tentative steps into the room. I was quivering now. I don't know if it was of anger or disbelief. His eyes raised and met mine, and he froze. I was the first to break the impasse. Sir, what are you doing here? What are you doing? He stood like a mummy, completely frozen. I couldn't wait. What the hell is going on? It was Shade who had the audacity to respond. Oh, we are going to Europe. To where? What for? How come? Because the questions were reeling out of my mouth in rapid bursts like bullets from a machine gun. No, it's not working here. We are immigrating. My temperature went off the radar. Going to where? I couldn't take anything from Shade seriously. I walked up to the boss, took the bundle of notes off his hands and discarded it on the table. My eyes pierced into his eyes. Sir, can you tell me what is going on, sir? Nathaniel, don't mind him. Get on with it. Shut up, Shade. Shade, shut up. I swallowed hard. I turned. I took a few steps away. Then suddenly I slapped my head. Bam! With both hands and flung them into the air. Sir, you set me up. I walked back towards him. Sir, you set me up. You set me up. You are in trouble and you still set me to those men? Nathaniel, come on now. We are wasting time. Shut your fucking mouth, Shade. Shut it. Sir, you made me your fall guy. He didn't need to respond. I could see it in his eyes. You were going to run and leave me with all those big men to chase me like a fucking church rat and finish me off? I swung around, picked up a Ghana must go in one hand. I grabbed Shade by the arm with the other, and I dragged her, screaming and flaying all the way to the door. I pushed her. In fact, I kicked her with my foot out of the room and threw the Ghana must go out after her and shut the door. I turned the keys and I put it in my pocket. Okay, sir. Now, please tell me what is going on. Tell me what is going on because I am going crazy here. He looked at me with a sardonic look. You're not saying anything, sir. I'm going to fuck you up, sir. I exploded. I'll fuck you up. I'll fuck you up so bad if you don't tell me. Oh my God, I'll fucking kill. Sit down. For a moment, I was befuddled. I said, sit down. He sat first. Then I pulled a chair and faced him. Then he continued. Kenny, things have not been going well with this business. In fact, it has not been going well for some time now. I leaned forward. I made a few bad decisions, very bad decisions, and lost a lot of money. A lot of money. But sir, you know the general and his boys wanted to pay $10 million each into their accounts abroad? I suspected. They have been demanding it for some time. I told them to be patient. Sir, you can't mess around with those type of men, sir. They are killers. Very nasty set of people. He shivered. His head dropped. He suddenly looked like a deflated balloon. Sir, what happened? What went wrong? He remained still, lifeless for a few good moments. And what he said next almost set me up to Jupiter. I provided funds for the campaign for the Democratic Party. And as you can see, they lost. I stood up. I needed to breathe. I needed to get blood flowing back in my veins. Sir, you mean to tell me? No, now. Sir, please tell me something that I can believe. It's true. I provided most of the money for the president and most of the governors. I must have sunk in nothing less than 5 billion naira. Do you know what? I simply burst out laughing. I laughed until I began to cough. I couldn't even stop laughing. I laughed and coughed all the way to the restroom for a drink. I came back to the office and Is that why you have been stacking cash here in the office? He said it would have been ridiculous to keep going in and out of the bank with boxes and cartons of cash. You know, the election is strictly a cash business. Somebody will suddenly need 10 million to be needed in 1 hour. Another will donate 50 million. It was madness. Oh, if we had won the election. Oh, so it was an investment. You can say so. Oh dear. Oh dear. But sir, what about our investors? He took a deep breath. I don't know. The election muddled up everything. All the investors' money went into the election. I fell back and raised my head to the ceiling. Oh my God. See me see trouble. I wasn't only in trouble with General Samuel and his boys. I had even lost this small job I was depending on to keep body and soul together. I got up and walked over to the window and looked out through the glass panels, 7 stories high over the skyline of Lagos. The flashing bright lights of the street adverts, the streaming headlights of the traffic, the busy street commerce hugging both sides of the streets. This was the dream that drew young men like me from villages all over the country. The need to make a living and the promise of making it big. Some would never get on the first rung of the ladder. Some would keep bouncing like a yo-yo because it wasn't real. Nothing was real. It was all an illusion. I made it. A few made it and made it really big, but at a price. The cost was dehumanizing. The loss of soul and humanity. You did not only have to fight to get. You had to be mean to keep what you got. And that meant keep as many people as you can down. The frightened face of the hustler as he was discarded and kicked like a rat by the general was what it was.
This is Nigeria. I love this country, man. You see, some call it corruption. I call it freedom of opportunity. You take your chances anywhere and anyhow. You can die in the mud reaching for the stars. But whoever wants to die in the fucking mud, better to die trying than waste in the gutter.
I turned and I looked at my boss. His head was leaning to the side. I could tell he was broken. Sir, you have to go home now, sir.
Act 2, the office. Wemco Financials. Kenny is in the restroom, dabbing his face with water at the sink.
I spent the night there in the boss's office. After I had seen him down to his car, I returned to the office and tidied the place up. The thought of absconding with a few of the suitcases appealed to me. But there was a stronger urge, an urge which both surprised and frightened me. It was an overwhelming urge to protect my boss. I pushed the thought away. It had been too late to catch the boss back. I settled into the comfort of my boss's chair and I dozed off.
I love this. I love this. I love this. I say it again. I love this. Woo! It's called the cycle of life. The king is dead. Long live the king. Long live the king.
Oh, it's 5 a.m. I wonder if that fucker is awake. Hello? Yeah. Yomi? How are you now? Yeah, please, can you come to the office? Yes, yeah, I have a great idea. I'll need your services. Okay, thank you. Yeah, hello, Sweetberry. Please, can you come over? Yeah, please, I need your services. Yes, thank you. Please call the rest of the crew. I needed to take drastic action. Everyone in the office had to go. They didn't fit into the new scheme of things. It was going to be the new order. I was pretty much aware of how much each person in the company earned. I counted out 1 year's salary for each person from the cash in the boxes. I put them inside envelopes and on each one scribbled severance pay with the amount. It was going to be a show of power. I left the door open and sank back in the chair. As the staff arrived, their curiosity brought them to the office. I learned something that morning. The power of position. I learned what the power of position means in this country. You can put a monkey in a position of power and people will still worship it. Maybe that is why people lie, cheat, and mislead to get into position. Because you are nothing without position. Position allows you the access to the national cake.
Damn right. I say damned right. People will come to you because you can pull levers for them. People will give you because they think you can give them more. You will become like a god. You will have the power. You can move mountains, redirect rivers. All up to you, boy. It's all up to you.
Without fail, as they stepped in, they bowed and walked in subdued manner as they approached the desk. The confusion plastered across their faces. I went straight to the point, handing the word of notes. Okay, here is your severance pay. The company has closed down. Thank you. Here is your severance pay. The company has closed down. Thank you. Yes, your severance pay. The company has closed down. I detect a hint of resistance. Oga, this is your severance pay. Take it or leave it. Every single one of them, as soon as they saw the amount on the envelope, their eyes lit up and they had a spring on their feet and they bounced out of the office. By 5 o'clock, I had my team in place. All of us sitting around the conference table like a board directors meeting. Yomi, company secretary and chief strategist. Tony, who would handle the technology, payment platforms and all that type of thing. Idara, who also went by the tag Sweet Berry. Bam! We were up and running. I sat on the computer all day, checking the bank accounts. Nothing dropped. The social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, no lights. Time to reassess strategy. Sweetberry was smart. Instead of just putting out bland promises, let's do a story. We went down to the street and found a street vendor selling biscuits, bread, cigarettes, and those sorts of things. Paid her 10K and set up a scene with her holding 100K and snapped. We paid her 10K and set up a scene with her holding 100K and snapped. Street vendor hits on the perfect investment. Madam Iyabo Ogunlere earns 10 times more on her investments at Wemco in a month than all her yearly sales. Madam Ogunlere invests 10K of her monthly sales from her business in trading with this unique investment platform, and in 1 month, she earns 5K. She can withdraw her capital and interest at any time, but she's happy to keep reinvesting. Early the next morning, I took a bus and a taxi to the boss's house. I had a feeling all night that something was just not right. I kept having flashes of my boss falling through empty space. Some inquiries. You see, I had to make some inquiries. You see, the boss had several hideouts. He hardly slept in one place for more than 2 nights running. His main family home was in Victoria Island, but that was strictly for wife and children. He had an apartment where, for better description, he entertained his ladies, and where he went for peace and quiet. I guess that under the circumstances, he would opt for some peace and quiet. I was relieved to see his car parked outside. After a lot of protocol and a long wait, I was let into the premises. Who opened the door? Shade. Her eyes were bloodshot and worn. I came to see the boss. How is he? She didn't say a word. She just turned and walked back in. I followed up to the bedroom. My boss was lying propped in a bed with a drip leading to his arm. I froze. The room had been turned into an emergency medical ward. There was an electrocardiogram on one side, a medication trolley, and several medical appliances around the room. What happened? He had a stroke. She heaved as she tried to hold back tears. Instinctively, I held out my arm and she fell against my chest. I hugged and rubbed the small of her back. Why is he here? Why is he not in the hospital? She looked at me as if I had said the most idiotic thing in the world. That was when I realized that in the hospital, he would be sitting target for the multitudes who would be lining up to deal him the final blow. Someone had the good sense to move the hospital to his house. Shade was anything but incompetent. She gestured to a chair and I sat. I watched the nurses attend to him. There was a doctor in the room too. Young, fresh-faced, trying hard to look serious and competent. It was like a strange movie. Are you staying? What? It was Shade asking if I was going to be hanging around for a while. I wasn't quite sure, just sitting there and doing my best to look concerned. I need to go out and get a few things. I got to my feet and guided her out of the room. Who's paying for all this? Her eyes widened in disbelief. Why? I'm paying now. Suddenly, I felt ashamed. So thoroughly ashamed. I felt like she'd thrown that Ghana must go back at me. Maybe she did love him all along. In my selfish, arrogant self, it didn't occur to me that people did have feelings. That on a level, that there were those close to our hearts. We were all products of circumstance. But that was not what actually defined us. You've tried. Let me take on from here. I watched dejectedly as she donned her dark shades and left the house. I went back into the room and sat. When I stepped out 5 hours ago and switched on my phone, I had stepped into a new existence. Rapid strings of notifications, all credit alerts. I couldn't count. I checked IG, 111,578 likes. I couldn't believe it. In one day, 102,000 followers. Fuck me. Fuck me. What else was happening? Over 30 calls from the team at the office. I pressed the call. Before I could even say hello, Yomi was screaming, "Guy, where have you been now? Get your ass down here. There is chaos." I stepped into the office and I found Yomi and Sweetberry looking shell-shocked. They were in various poses of disbelief and awe. Sweetberry, normal mop of hair stood erect like it was being fed steady stream of current. What's happening? They stared back at me. Dope. Come on, guys. Yomi slowly got to his feet. Good for you, Kenneth. We have definitely opened a can of, I don't know what to say. I hope we all don't drown here. Go to the point, Yomi, I said. Phones have been ringing non-stop since morning. All 4 have been blazing. We have to turn them off. But the campaign is working now. That's what we want now. Yes, but not when people are calling in here for Christ's sake. Yomi's eyes were bulging. The banks were choked up and they wanted to bring cash. Okay, let me check the accounts. I opened my phone, checked the account. Yeah! 3 million naira! 13,000 deposited already. The rest peered down into the screen. And in a sudden burst of euphoria, burst into unbridled jubilation, we shouted, we danced, we hugged, and we hand slapped each other till our hands were sore. No one went home that night. We worked on upping our systems for the next day. The website had crashed. We needed more bank accounts. Social media intensified. All through the night, the numbers were ticking up, ticking higher. Another 2 million before morning.
Hold on. Ha! This is just the beginning. I told you. This is the madness of this society. You watch what's going to happen now, boy. Everything is a racket. They all want something for nothing. Sell them a fucking mirage and they will thank you for it. Bloody amazing, isn't it? Bloody amazing. Stick it to them, boy. Stick it hard and fast.
8:30 a.m. Yes, 8:30 a.m. on the dot. We had the first of a long line of visitors that day. The classy, well-dressed lady, clouded in the midst of some upmarket perfume, had made herself very comfortable in the chair. We want to offer you banking facilities. I surveyed her. She was self-assured and made it obvious that she knew what she wanted and she usually got what she wanted. Banking facilities, I said. Yes, we can handle your account, but we already had several accounts. She pulled a long, stretched smile, revealing her gleaming white teeth. This woman was clearly on her game, but not with the advantages that we can offer. I threw my head back and laughed. Listen, madam, 3 years ago, I couldn't open an account with your bank. I still have the old saving books. That's all. Well, 3 years is a long time. Indeed. 3 years is indeed a very long time. But why now? Oh, you're doing well. Congratulations. You see, this world is a funny place. When you need, you don't get. And when you don't, you get offered in a platter of gold. I sat back and savored the scene. She was turned on full blast. Sensuous smiles, fluttering eyes. She adjusted the low-cut blouse to further reveal the high-angled plums on her chest. Tempt me. She leaned forward and stroked the table with her little finger. We can open a personal account for you with 5 million naira credit line for whatever you want to do. I raised my eyebrows. Make it 10 million. You are a big player, she chuckled. Oh yes, I am big. I am very big. I am bigger than you can imagine. This woman was smart. She caught on to my play of words. Oh, and you can add a gold credit card to the package too. Oh my God, she whimpered. I can see you do love the fine things of life. I hit my home advantage. And lunch too, at your own expense. She agreed. Yummy, Sweetberry, Tony, let's go and spend money. Yes, let's go. I dragged the team into a taxi and took them on a spree round the top-end boutiques in Lagos. There was chaos when we came back to the office. We couldn't get in. The forecourt was jammed with people clamoring to make deposits. For the first time since it all started, I got scared. A police van with its siren and lights flashing was stuck right in the middle of the crowd, and the policemen whipping crazily to get people into order. We slipped in through the rear entrance to get into the building. It was mad. We had to make a decision. Collect the cash. We hurried down the envelope. We hurried down the reception and began flinging envelopes. Yes, madam. Yeah, your name, bank details, phone number. Yes, that is what we need. Yes, name, bank details, phone number. Yeah, Oga, please. Yes, sir. Just write your name here under this line. Thank you. That's all you need. Thank you. Woo! I sank back into the boss's chair and I gulped from the bottle of Jack Daniels. I felt like I had been run over by a caterpillar. We couldn't handle this alone. We needed staff. 1 week later, I peeped into the main office. What the devil? All the desks were occupied with young, serious-looking young people fixed to their computer screens. Was this a bank? Finance investments house? Was this a bank? Finance investments house? I couldn't believe it. I needed to make a call I had been putting off for days. Despite several missed calls and desperate messages, I went back to the office and locked the door. Yes, hello? Yeah, what do you mean I'm making money? Oh, it's all over the papers. See, they are liars, my dear. They are liars. Damn fucking liars. I'm telling you. No, you cannot come now. Things are not settled. I mean, like, too much is happening. Yes, I will let you know when to come here. I said I will let you know now. Yes, I will send money and you can start buying things for the baby. I got the call. Somehow, Vivienne had picked up that I was making money. I was in a swell. I was swelling in the vortex of madness and uncertainty. I didn't even know what was happening. The only reality about all of this was that I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. There was a soft knock on the door. I struggled to my feet and more or less staggered over the door. Lunch, are you up for it? Fuck me. She wasn't power dressed like when she appeared before, but her dressing was just as potent. She must have noticed me flounder. It is part of the package, remember? Of course, definitely part of the package. She pushed herself close to me, and that same mist of perfume clouded my senses. You don't have to do anything. You just have to make yourself available.
This is what it is, man. It is what is known as the gold dust effect. The glitter. Everyone wants to be touched with the specter of success, fame, and wealth. If it has touched you, we want to touch you too.
Madam Akaba's 90th birthday. Who is this one from? Never heard of her. Dump. Launching. Mazie Bere Emperor launching his 5-story building. Who is this? Jump. Okerenkoko Improvement Society Annual Gala. Hey. Okay. Eternity Full Gospel Ministries. What? 3 days of spiritual enrichment. I'm not even a member of the church. Why are they inviting me? Jump. Okerenkoko Improvement Society. You see, Okerenkoko is my hometown in Delta. That is where I come from. Did they know me before now? Did they even know I existed before now? I guess not. I guess not. Had I ever got an invitation from these people? No. But I was going to make an appearance now and announce my arrival, my presence in the arena. I arrived at the venue and found a seat at a corner at the rear until someone recognized me and propelled me up to the stage to the chants of Kenni Money, Kenni Money, Kenni Money, Kenni Money. I got infected myself and responded, pumping the air with my arm. Kenni Money, Kenni Money, Kenni Money. Yes, finally I had arrived. The people of Okerenkoko now knew who I was. The Monoyo family name was finally on the map. Kenni Money, Kenni Money, Kenni Money. I listened to the idolations heaped on myself and the other invited guests, massaging our egos before moving in for the big squeeze. I took it all with a pinch of salt. Fake praises, ego-blasting pronouncements, bombastic pronouncements. Then came payback time. So and so, CEO of Amaris Group of Industries, I am dropping 500,000 naira. Chief Eriko, chairman of this and that, 600,000 naira. Next, 650, 700, 750, and so on. Each one higher than the previous. You see, the way the game is played is this. You wait, and you see the amounts that are being dropped, and then you step over. I mean, step over. But you don't want to wait too long, or you have to really step over. You know, the key is to know your limits. Then act just before you are overwhelmed. Yes. And then it began to get really serious. I am Chief Majemite, founder, chairman, and managing director of Apex Global Enterprises. I am shooting I am shooting 1 million naira. Everyone bounds on their feet. Chief Majemite now aimed into the audience. Should I shoot again? Should I shoot again? The crowd responded, shoot, shoot. How much should I shoot? Millions, the crowd chanted. Okay, I shoot another million. The crowd bounced even higher. More. Okay, another 1 million. Bam! I waited like a cat watching from the top of the roof until the drama subsided. Then I calmly called the attention of the host. Find out the total of how much has been donated. He looked at me like a lunatic. Yes, the total of how much has been collected here tonight. You could see the confusion on his face. And then it clicked. And his face broke into a smile of recognition. He pecked up and scampered away. An hour later, he returned. 12 million naira, sir. Okay. Thank you. Can I have the microphone? I stood and I punched the air. Money! The crowd responded. Kenni Money! Kenni Money! Kenni Money! And then I continued. I hear the sum of 15 million has been collected here today. I now declare that I will be donating 30 million naira. The pandemonium broke. They jumped, they kicked, they danced, and they backslapped. Yes, 30 million. And I will deposit the cash right here tonight. Oh, the roof almost came down. But the hall suddenly went quiet. You could hear a pin drop. I could see the confusion on their faces. What is the but? I laughed. I will give the union another 2 million naira a year every year from now on. The pandemonium recommenced. Hold on the condition that all the money raised here tonight is used to complete the community secondary school the union has been building for the past 10 years. Silence. All the money raised here tonight must go to completing the school. And also the school must be named Alfred Monoyo Memorial College. Still silence. Then all of a sudden, the hall began to empty fast. The men took to the door, while the wives quickly gathered and ushered the children out as fast as they could. The management gathered around me. Why, Mr. Kenny? Why? We are raising money to build a place for the king now. What about the Christmas party? Every year we have a Christmas party. Those are my conditions. Take it or leave it. 30 million naira was too tasty for them to let go. But I had them by the balls. I want proper accounting from now on. Every kobo spent. No Christmas party this year. What a shock. This is a community organization. Funds are meant for the public and not for building palaces and spending on entertainment.
Oh, of course it's a shock. It's a devastating shock. Don't you know that's not the way things are done in this damn forsaken land, boy? What do you mean public funds? Don't you know that what is good for my pocket is also good for the public, boy?
A few days later, I popped over to check on the boss. Sade was sleeping on the bed beside the boss. He was still propped up with pillows, and all the paraphernalia of a medical ward were still in place. He was still oblivious to the world. Talk about loyalty. Sade continued to amaze me. She attended to the boss religiously, feeding him, carrying his shit, and administering his medication, all the while ignoring her own needs. Yes, see, it is easy to judge a book by the cover. And often what we see is not actually what is. She could have bolted with what she had acquired already and move on with her life. But she was young. She was young and still hot in the market. She was a cheating, good bitch, but she was still there in his time of need. The human spirit is wonderful. I woke half quietly. I wanted to talk about the arrangements for flying the bus out of the country. How's it going? Oh, well, we found a hospital in Dubai. London is too expensive. We are waiting for the visa. The flight is next week. I nodded. I pray he holds out till then. Yeah, we had to hire a private air ambulance. No problem. All the funds you need will be available. She stared at me with blank eyes. I felt the sudden urge to hug her, but it would not have been appropriate. You hold on tight, you hear? I turned to leave. Kenny! I stopped, stayed frozen for a few moments, then turned. Thank you. Her eyes flooded with tears. I stared at her for a moment, then stepped forward and hugged her.
Oh, you can never judge a book by the cover. But what's between the cover is another story. Every page can tell a different story. You can't afford to read stories in this goddamn country. Too much information is bad for the mind, not the environment. For people who think you get on the treadmill like a rat and you run, boy, run, boy.
Back at the office, Yomi accosts me by the lift. Listen, you've got visitors. Guess who? She's here with mother, sister, brother, and uncle. I have fed and watered them. I walked into the office, mask over my face, and I sat in the chair. The tension was palpable. 8 angry eyes glaring on me. I glared back. Vivienne broke the impasse. Where have you been? What do you mean by where have I been? Where have you been? for nearly 4 hours. I am sorry. You didn't tell me you were coming. 4 hours, so we have been here for 4 hours. I'm sorry. I had appointments. I don't just sit here. Maya, where did you go? I tried to suppress my anger. Are you really asking where I went? Yes, you are gallivanting everywhere. You don't even remember to come and see me, or to even call me. I'm sorry. There's just so much going on. I have been very busy. What kind of busy? Too busy to come and take care of your responsibilities? Still, you should have told me that you were coming. Hey, she laughed. Hey, are you crazy? See, I came to settle the matter. When are you going to marry me? I sank back in the chair. The uncle stood and approached the table. We have come to settle this matter of marriage. Have you seen that the pregnancy is showing already? It is a disgrace that our daughter is pregnant without marriage. Normally, we would have to fine you for this. I kept mum. Vivienne sprang to her feet. You see what I've been saying? Making excuses, feasting here and there. You're going to decide today you are going to marry me. Her voice trailed off into the ether. Suddenly, everything crystallized and became clear. I would not ever marry Vivienne. Child or no child, it was a false dream. I should never have played along. I had to put an end to it. Stop stringing her along. There will be no marriage, Vivienne. I am sorry, but I will not marry you. I saw the blood drain from her face. She clutched her stomach and began to keel over. She managed to stretch her arm out and reach for the conference table and edged forward till she could settle on the chair. What are you saying? I cannot marry you. I'm sorry. I will provide for you and the child, but I cannot marry you. Her mother, a dignified though illiterate woman in her early 60s, gave me a look that could fell an elephant. Is this what you brought us here to say? She said in our native language. She went over to her daughter and said mockingly to her face, I told you, you see, you want to force a man to marry you, eh? Vivienne burst into a loud wail and leaned into her mother. The old lady stroked her head. Oh yeah, get up, let's go. Loss of a man is one thing. Loss of one dignity is everything. I offered a hotel for them to stay. A hotel. The mother's eyes washed over me from head to toe. She doesn't even have a house. Come, please, I'm getting sick. Whew. That was a narrow escape. But why did I not face up to this ages ago and save everyone the bother? I closed my eye. I was all a con. Vivienne had played me, and I had taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker. She was just like every one of us, a hustler, trying to get a foot up on the ladder. Standing now on the outside, looking in, I could certainly hold it. I couldn't really hold it against her. The newspaper had been lying there all the while. There was a note clipped to the front. Kenny, please read page 4. I read the cover news, then flipped lazily to the 4th. What? I sat up pronto. The scourge of money pyramid schemes in Nigeria. Hey, I felt my heart tick faster for a few moments, then steadied myself and read the article.
Act 3, night. Tied up and blindfolded, Kenny is being interrogated in a big cell.
Where's the money? Bye! Where's the money? Slaps rang out. I don't have your money. I don't have your money. Bye! You're lying. We know you have the money. Don't lie. I swear to God, sir, honestly, I don't have the money. All the money I've been spending, where are you getting it from? From investors, sir. Shut up! Shut up, or we'll kill you now. If you don't tell us now, I burst out crying. Sir, I beg you, please, I don't have your money. I don't have your money. Where's your father? I recognize. I beg you, sir, I don't have the money. I don't have the money. Where's your father? I recognized the voice, but couldn't put a face to it. We gave you instructions to pay the money. Horror! It was Bozo. Sir, please, I don't know anything. I explained how I had no idea what my boss had been up to. I was just an errand boy until the day I went to meet the general. Then I had to step in anywhere I could. He's done a runner? No, sir. He's sick, sir. What? He had a heart attack, sir. Is he dead? Okay, I'm going to take us to him. No hanky-panky. We arrived at the boss's hideout. It was dark, no lights, not a single light anywhere, and no one answered the gates. Not a soul anywhere to be seen. The general lost his patience and backed to his men. Break in and find out what is going on there. Minutes later, the soldiers returned. Nobody, sir. Only one dead man in the house. Dead? I could hear myself at the top of my voice. What do you mean dead? Yes, sir. What do you mean dead? Yes, sir. You are telling me that there is a dead man in the house, nobody else? The general said. I had to see for myself. My hands had already reached for the handle when I heard a rifle cock. I want to identify, sir. That was the end of Nathaniel. He was lying prostrate on the bed, covered with a blanket. The room had been stripped off of all the medical equipment. It was an ignominious ending. The man could not hang in long enough to be flown out for treatment. I didn't want to think about Shadi at all. She was like a captain, the last to jump before the ship went down to a dark, lonely end. The general grabbed me by the collar. I still want my money. I give you 1 week to find out where the money is stashed. He kneed me in the groin and pushed me back. Oh, you are a dead man. I was in big shit. I knew it. Sunk right down to my neck in the mess. Since the newspaper article ran, we had experienced a heavy run on our accounts. New deposits had almost dried. At the rate things were going, we wouldn't be able to meet our payments and everything would collapse. I called in a futile position on the conference table in the office with my head throbbing with pain. The next morning, we all sat round the table. Things were critical. We needed to do something or sink or bolt while we can, was your Miss Slant. But Sweetberry, she had the perfect solution. We offered 200% for 30 days. I stared at her like she had gone mad. Drunk, maybe. For a woman who alcohol had never touched her lips until she arrived to join the team. She was constantly helping herself to the free bar I had installed in the office. Was she drunk? My cousin is a journalist now. He can call his friends. And just give them 10K now, they can write anything. Oh, I jumped and planted a full kiss on her lips. Mwah! Yes, full on her lips. Sweetberry was a hero. Yes, get them in, I said. We were not going to sit back and take it. It was a war of the people, by the people, for the people, on all fronts. The battleground was the soul of the people. With the people behind us, we would conquer any obstacles. We set up a war room, not only for the journalists. What was social media for? If it was not to reach out to the masses, our weapon of mass dissemination, we got in bloggers, influencers, anyone who could tell a story to push out the story that the powers that be were stepping on the common man, greedy and mean. And while they were looting the nation, they wanted to stamp on the only means the man in the street had to build his own capital. It was magic. Within a week, we were back. Deposits were rolling in, even more this time than before. The money was rolling in, but I was uneasy. I don't know why or what, but I began to feel strange. For the first time since this adventure began, something began to bug me. I couldn't put my finger on it, but every day the feeling nagged me. Was it fear? the dread that everything was finally going to blow up, or was it conscience? I cut it off. It wasn't time to show any weakness. Too many people were depending on me now. We moved to the next stage of our plan. Free money for the people. Free money would be at so street on this day at 2 p.m. Then drive past and offload tens of thousands in the air. We didn't stop to see how many people stumbled over the manor, but we watched the replay on social media. But then things began to get out of hand. Free money took on a life of its own. Rumors spread, not from us, that free money would appear on a certain street on a certain day. People would gather on the streets and in their frustrations began to take it out on each other. I moved substantial amounts of money into secret accounts, each for Sweetberry, Yomi, and the team. They had played it well, so well. I moved funds into a trust for Vivienne and my son, and I moved funds into another account for my brother to take care of himself and my mother. Then I called in the trustees of Okerenkoko Improvement Union. The school building project was almost complete. I told them we had to get the best teachers and the best equipment. And to their horror, the school was to be free. No fees for any student. I would be stepping up. I would be setting up a trust to manage the school.
You are losing your mojo, boy. You are losing your mojo. This was not the agreement. Let me tell you, if you let your conscience get the better of you, you will live with the consequences forever. You got it all, but you're letting it slip through your fingers. Get a grip, boy. This is not Disneyland. This is the Wild West.
You know you're a terrorist, Amiega said as she rested her head on my chest and stroked my body. But a good terrorist. I am loving the ride. Over the months, I had stripped myself of the lure of the good life. Gone were the love of the fancy cars, the flash clothes, and the good wine. I was on a mission. An inner strength I didn't know existed, grew by the day. I want you to find me a lawyer, an angry lawyer with a stomach for a fight, hungry to make a name. I know one, she replied. My husband. I sat up. What? Your husband? Yes. Why do you think I hustle? I need to support my family while he dreams. Everything was set. I felt a certain calm within. I was at peace with myself. The day came. That morning, Deji, Amiege's husband, and I, along with a bulging file containing incriminating evidence, arrived at the FCIID station, otherwise known as Alagbon Close. We had arranged for a bunch of the press to be present. The duty officer was befuddled. Where's the warrant for your arrest? Where's the warrant for your arrest? We don't have one, officer. I came to surrender myself. He stared back at me with a blank expression. I pushed the file towards him. See, I have all the evidence with me here. The few other policemen in the reception went quiet. You could slice the frozen expressions on their faces. The sound of a pin dropping would have sounded like a bomb exploding. Inside me, my pulse was racing. Arrest me, arrest me, arrest me now. The duty officer retreated like a fugitive into the station. He returned a few moments later. Oga wants to see you. The superintendent was behind his desk, an overly large bodily bear of a man. He seemed to take great amusement with our appearance. Do you know what it's like to be arrested in this country? I do, sir. He rolled back with laughter. You don't know anything. I locked them up. What about the charges, sir? The constable asked. What charges? Here. Theft, deception, parading under false pretenses. He bellowed out with laughter. Oga, have you been smoking weed or something? If I have to arrest everybody for theft and deception, I will arrest everybody in this country. Deji stepped in. I believe my client is well within his right to turn in himself for what he believes are imminent charges. A red mist descended over his face, but he checked himself. Oga, you have come to the wrong place. So this is Alagbon, the CID headquarters. The psychiatric hospital is Ayaba.
Very funny indeed. What really is the difference? He's telling you that crime pays. If you can get away with it, boy, get away with it. Who in your right minds offer themselves up to be arrested? You see, now I am getting worried.
We waited in the superintendent's office for 4 hours while they decided on what to do with us. The policemen kept poking their heads in through the door, some even peering through the windows to get a glimpse of us. Then finally, Mr. Kenni Monoyo, you are hereby arrested for the following charges: fraud, theft, obtaining funds under false pretenses. Hallelujah! At last, I breathed a sigh of relief. It would have been most disappointing to walk into a police station to be arrested and walk out again without any charges. The superintendent, who watched as the charges were read out, kept shaking his head, whether in disappointment or admiration. It was difficult to know. Handcuffs were slammed on my wrists and a chain coupled across my ankles, and we were led out. Money! A chant rose as we emerged from the building. Someone must have let it slip that I was in the building. A few hundred people had gathered by the gates and across the streets. Money! I said as I raised my hands with a clenched fist. That really sent them off. Money! Money! Kenni money! There were scuffles as the Black Maria rolled out of the gates. Kenni money! There were scuffles as the Black Maria rolled out of the gates, and the chanting continued until we turned onto the main road and headed for Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison.
Poor blighted people. What does it take to be a hero? In an evil society, the valiant is the hero, only because the valiant speaks the truth. Ha! Oh my God. Well, if that's what you want to play, oh boy, no skin off my back. You can't say I didn't try. I told you.
Why solitary confinement? You are a dangerous man, Mr. Kenni. We don't want any disturbances in this facility. The prison warden was there personally to receive me. Suddenly, it tweaked. I was a person of interest right up to the very top. The news must have got around that there were quite a few people who would want to shut me up, finish me off for good. Deji tapped me on the shoulder. Keep it together, man. We'll do the work on the outside. Slang, clang, bang! I was all alone in a dark, foul-smelling cell. Had I bitten more than I could chew, I could be locked up here forever. Everyone would soon forget that I ever existed and move on. Or I could be taken out and shot and disposed in some shallow, unmarked grave. Frightening thoughts of doom zigzagged in my mind. Loneliness can play havoc on the mind. I had never been so lonely. It was dark and dank, no windows. How would I tell if it was night or day? The room reeked with urine and excrement. It had been a long and grinding day, and I had never needed more than to cool off. I lowered myself on the Vono-sprung bed. There was no mattress, just a tattered mat spread across the bare strings. Days rolled into nights, and back to day again. I figured it was morning when the water brought my ration of dry bread and water. And evenings when a watery porridge of beans was served. It was so watery I had to cup my fingers to sieve the beans off. On the 7th day, I heard the key of the door turn and the bars pulled up. Get up! Get up! You are wanted. I who? Oh God, the top. Oh yeah. You have a choice. Return the money or get locked away for the rest of your life. It was my friend, the officer who had received me at the Ministry of Defense and taken me to meet the boys. He was sitting at the chief's desk. This time, he looked more like a thug in a black suit and dark ribbons than the professional soldier I had admired. On what grounds, sir? I have not been charged with any. Just give us the money back and you can walk out of here free. I want to be charged, sir. I want to have my say in court. He got to his feet and swiped me across the face with a backhander. Twice! We can make you disappear and no one will find where you are. I sucked the blood from the cut that had erupted on my lip and spat in the floor. I looked at him straight in the eye. He nodded. You will see. My rations were out, and for days, nothing at all. She came to me on a hot steam, descending from a mountain of white clouds, dressed in a white flowing gown of silk and lace, threaded with glittering strips of gold. I was kneeling, but she took my hand and raised me up, stroked my face. She had that look she always had when, as a boy, I had taken one more step too far. A look of reproach mixed with love and concern. Then she smiled, patted my cheeks, and slowly ascended the mountain and disappeared above the clouds. I broke into a cold, shivering panic and then let out a deep, anguished cry that carried the pain from the depths of my stomach to my head. Ah! And I sank to the floor. 3 months later, Deji arrived. How have you been bearing up? I stared at him blankly. I've given up all. They refused me access, but there's been breakthrough. We've got a judicial order to produce you in court this morning. I continued to stare at him. You brought your clothes, change up. We've got half an hour. I was still staring at him. And oh, Amiega, she's here. She's waiting outside. I was chained and handcuffed and led to a prison's van, a Toyota pickup with a fabricated and completely sealed cage coupled onto its carriage. Deji and Amiega followed behind. I knew we had arrived at the court when I heard, Kenni Monoyo, Kenni Monoyo, Kenni Monoyo. And the van kept being buffeted by loud banging and shoving. It took over 20 minutes for the police officers to beat the crowds. When I emerged, the chanting rose to a crescendo. I felt this surge of energy. I raised my hands as high as I could and waved. The entrance, the corridors, the courtroom itself was swarmed with people. The press firing away with their cameras. The judge must have been waiting for how long? Who knows? Because she was fuming. Deji apologized profusely while her piercing eyes burned into me. The court clerk read out the case and the parties involved and handed the file to the judge. She flipped through the file and threw her hands up. What's this case all about anyway? Why is this man here in court? There was no one to answer. The prosecution bench was empty. Not one state prosecutor. No one from the FCC. Not even a police lawyer. No one. She scribbled on the file for a few minutes and then raised her head and said, Case dismissed. The defendant should be released immediately. A roar rose in the court, and as the news rippled down the corridors and outside, loaded chanting came through. Kenni Monoyo, Kenni Monoyo, Kenni Monoyo! And then it became like a dream. A scuffle at the door, and then a group of the dreaded Mopole, fully primed for combat, stormed into the courtroom. They pushed directly in my direction. People scrambled across the room to form a ring around me. Gun butts, knuckles, and elbows flying left, right, and center. All directions, from all angles, chopping and slashing. One of the policemen grabbed my scruff of the neck and pulled. Others jumped into the melee. Bang! The flash and the sound of the discharge reverberated around the courtroom. I continued pulling, wiggling, trying to extricate myself from the arm around my neck. Oh my God! He had been shot! Ah, I have been shot! Oh, see blood, see blood! I was still engaged with the struggle. Then slowly, I began to feel energy seep away from me. I pulled, but not as vigorously. I pushed, but not as forcefully. And I was slowly sinking and sinking and sinking to the floor.
Oh, wow. That was fantastic. And I would like to congratulate James, Promise, and Elle for a great presentation. You have given us all a lot to think about. And once again, well done for a gripping presentation. Well done to everybody involved. Right, so as mentioned earlier, we have a 20 minutes Q&A to ask any questions that you may have. Please use your reaction function at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, and I'll call your name, at which point you can unmute your mic, direct your question to the writer or the director, and also to the actor. And then you can mute your mic again once you are done, so your question can be answered. But before we get on to the Q&A, I would once again like to congratulate James, Elle, and Promise for a fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. Thank you. So the floor is now open for our Q&A, which will last for 20 minutes. And if you would like to ask a question, then please use the reaction function on the app to raise your hand, and I'll call your name. And then you can unmute your mic after I've called your name to ask your question, and then mute it back again after you're done. So the actor, director, or the writer can answer your question. So the floor is now open. Thank you. Okay, AJ, I can see you, so the floor is yours.
Hi everyone. I just want to know the motivation behind this play. So this is to the director or anybody who can answer this for me. Thank you.
Okay, James, I think this
What
one
is
is
the
for you, the
motivation?
author. Yeah. All right. Thanks, AJ.
Right. Okay. Can you hear me?
Clearly.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. The motivation for the play. This is a long story. Basically, what happened is I returned back to Nigeria about sometime in 2013, having lived all my life away from Nigeria. And while I was there, you know, once you're a newcomer into a society, you seem to have an eye for things which people don't actually, you know, see. You know, you seem to have like a third eye that is not obvious to everybody. And I could see the way things were going, you know, and everything wasn't really what they seemed to be or what it was supposed to be. It was like almost everyone was on some kind of acid, you know. Everybody was rushing around, everybody was doing something, you know, but then there was no substance, you know, behind that. And that was when the idea for the play started to germinate, you know. I really wanted to write a play that could just capture the broad landscape of what was happening in Nigeria at that time, or still is happening in Nigeria, and I believe even worse now, you know. So I did start the play then, but I got stuck. I couldn't really find that, you know, that spine that would go through the play, because it was, I was really taking on the whole landscape of everything that was happening in Nigeria. So anyway, I put it in the cupboard and left it for some time. And then coming back to London, you know, being away from Nigeria for a while. And this is funny. It wasn't until one evening, you know, because when I like to go to bed, you know, I like to watch a few YouTube videos and things like that. And then suddenly there was this pop-up, and it was the pop-up of Charles Ponzi, who was the original, you know, person who started all this, what we now know as the Ponzi scheme. So I watched the biography, and then it struck me. So this is what I have been trying to, I could now personalize, you know, instead of trying to write about a very broad landscape, you know, with various characters and things happening. I now found the one person, you know, who actually could represent what was really happening in Nigeria and what I could see, you know, and within 3 weeks, I'd had the play. Okay. So this is a present, this is just, in fact, this is just the first draft of the play. You know, it will need to be worked on, but I felt so much about this play that really, I just wanted to put it out for people to at least, you know that this was some kind of work in progress. I hope that answers your, and actually the play is much longer than this. We've had to re-cut it, you know, I mean, its original length is quite a long play. It goes over well over 2 hours, but, you know, but we couldn't expect you to sit for 2 hours on the screen watching. So yes, there are a lot of things that have been left out of the play.
All right, thank you very much, James, for your question. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question? It can also be feedback or praise. We'll take it all.
Okay. Yeah, can I talk?
You can, yes. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations, guys. James, that was strong. It's been a while. Congratulations. And the power actor, Promise. That was awesome. That was awesome. Congratulations. I really, I so love the moment, and I had actually made a post on that already. But my concern is, I don't know if it will be you that will attend to this very concern, or the writer himself. I feel that the work was actually sounding a bit prosaic in nature. It is drama. So I would like to understand if that is the intent of the writer or the remaking of the director. And before you answer, because I may not talk again, Promise that was actually a very strong performance. I called it a mouthful, okay? And well done, team, well done, team. You can read my comment and suggestions there, but I would like whoever it may concern to attend to that very one there.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, Austin, thanks for your question. Yes, the language in the play is quite prosaic, and I think the writer wanted it that way. We had to go to it and, you know, used to the nuances in the play. You know, the playwright had the way he wanted the play to go, the sort of language that would be in it, how the characters sounded, and so on and so forth. So yes, it was not on the part of the director, but this is how the play was written, what the playwright wrote. And we took it that way to make sure the actor who was performing it got the right nuances to make it sound the way he intended.
Okay, all right. That's fine.
Thank you very much. Oyiza, I can see your hand up. I hope I've said your name right. Forgive me if I haven't. The floor is yours now.
Hey, it's great. Oh, it's great to be here. Can you hear me? Okay. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for this, James. We have been following each other's works over the years, and it's great to see this. I wanted to know if what the future is for this. I mean, everything that was expressed in this performance is nothing short of the reality that we've experienced, or we're still experiencing in Nigeria till today. So I'd really like to know what the future is. in terms of getting the right years. We're about 40 people on this platform now, and I'm hoping that more people are listening and watching beyond this 40 people here. But beyond that, where do we want to go with this? How are we going to get it to the right years? People have become quite immune to even expressions of some of the ills in our society. It doesn't really move people these days. It's been so normalized. But I'd like to see this on stage. I'd like to see this even in a podcast form, which is still cheaper than producing it, on stage. This is great, but if this can be a step further, like a radio drama, and let's have it in more years, and let's get more people talking. But to the actor, you did great. I would have like 3 bottles of water there, just drink it. But having to run through it all these hours is really a test of your abilities, and you've done quite good. And to the director and the writer, so thank you very much. It's a great time, great way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Right. This is just a rehearsed read. Can everyone hear what I'm saying?
Absolutely, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. I mean, this is just the first step. There's still a lot more writing to be done, and yes, definitely, I would like to see it on stage. That's the aim. It's a play that should be put out there. So I'll start working towards trying to get that either here in the United Kingdom or in Nigeria, wherever, when it's a play that needs to be on stage. With regards for the other digital formats, yes, it's something that we have to look at in this modern age, either through live streaming or podcast or something. So definitely, this is just the beginning. Yeah. So we intend for it to grow and fly.
Okay, thank you very much. Oyiza, I think I had your name up, but I'm not sure if you.
Oh, that was me.
That was you. Sorry.
I'm here with my team, so yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Echa, AJ, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you have another question. If you don't, then could you please put your hand down? Any further questions from anyone, please? I guess not. Okay. All right. Well, then that's great. I can see your comments still coming across in the comment section, which is fantastic. Once again, I would like to thank James and Elle and Promise. You were fantastic. My friends and I, a few who are on here, were talking about your performance. I know everyone is talking about this being a problem in Nigeria, but we are Ghanaians and we do have the same issue in our society, so we can relate. And it's fantastic that such an issue that is gripping both these societies is finally being brought to light in such a way. So thank you so much for a fantastic presentation. So I'd like to thank you again for spending your time with us this Sunday afternoon. Once again, I'd like to congratulate the crew again for fantastic reading. We will be hosting events from time to time. If we do not have your contact details, then please send these to us so we can inform you of future events. So thank you very much and have a productive week. My name has been Koya Nkrumah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mavis. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Okay.
Yes, thanks very much, Mrs. We'll talk later on. Okay.
All right, no problem.
Right.
It's been lovely meeting you all. Promise you were fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Mavis, you were very good as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
You too. Thank you too. Yes, really nice.
Mr. Promise. Mr. Promise, you're a real fresh prince, you know.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Very, very well. Exceptionally well. And
Thank you so much.
director, full respect, yeah?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, director. Thank you, everyone.
Done. Very well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Henshaw.
Yes, later we'll talk.
You've got skills, you know. Did you realize that your video was off?
The video was off.
Your video shouldn't have been off. I sent you a message.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, anyway, that's one of those things.
Okay, that's fine. No problem.
Yeah.
Right. Promise. More power. That was fantastic. We recorded it. I'll put it on so that we can watch it again.
Okay, sir.
And then maybe I can let's take some rest, and then maybe like on a Tuesday, so that we can discuss what needs to happen.
Okay, sir. Okay, lovely. Okay, sir.
Okay, Nero. Yeah.
The end is it all going to go? Yeah. When they talk to you, it's like, keep it. Oh.
Thank you.